Welcome to Biz Filing's Expert Insights.
Hi, I'm Greg Corombos. Our guest this week on Expert Insights is Erica Keswin. She is the author of Take Your Human to Work. She is also founder of the Spaghetti Project, which we'll learn a whole lot more about in just a moment. Her specialty is building strong relationships in the business environment. And Erica, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You say that honoring relationships is not only good for business, it is essential for business. So what does it mean to honor relationships, and what does that look like in practicality?
Honoring relationships is about being intentional about how, when, where, why you connect with people. And one of the things I've seen in my work and in my life is that, you'll have to excuse the pun here, but left to our own devices, we're not connecting. And so in order to truly honor relationships, we can't just assume it's going to happen. We have to be intentional. And that's really what I mean by honoring relationships.
Last year, you launched something called the Spaghetti Project. What is it? What did you study, and what did you learn?
The Spaghetti Project came as I started doing the research for my book, Bring Your Human to Work. I came across a study out of Cornell University, and the study was done by a professor named Kevin Niffen. And Kevin's father was a firefighter, and he grew up in the culture of going to firehouses. And so when he was getting his advanced degree in organizational strategy, it made sense to him to study firehouses. And long story short, what he found was that the firefighters who were the most dedicated to that long-standing tradition of the firehouse meal and sitting around the table and building trust, it actually correlated with higher levels of performance and saving more lives. And so when I started interviewing firefighters and going to the firehouse or watching television shows about firefighters, the stereotypical or the go-to firehouse meal many times, more often than not, is spaghetti and meatballs. And so I call my work the Spaghetti Project, which in a nutshell is a platform that shares the science and stories of connection at work.
Does it have to involve eating together or socializing even outside of work, or can it be built inside of a business in other ways?
That's a great question. No, it does not have to involve eating at all. It's really just a sort of a metaphor to again, highlight the importance of being intentional. So one of the chapters in my book is called Give Back. And one strategy that many companies are giving, and these are not just big companies like the Microsofts or LinkedIn's of the world. These are also startups that are using the human desire to give back as a way to bring people together. So I would say volunteering is one way, and the easiest and most accessible way is we all have meetings. And we're all sitting in meetings, probably too many meetings, which also happens to be a chapter in the book. But if we can be more intentional about the way that we conduct our meetings and honor relationships and think about whether or not maybe all the phones and the devices should go in a basket, or maybe we only take them out for the last 15 minutes to schedule the next meeting. So I would say that many of these ideas don't cost anything. And to answer your question, no, they do not need to be done around a meal.
How do you know if you're in an organization that does honor relationships? You might be the business owner or manager who thinks you're doing a good job in that department. Your employees might not be willing to tell you otherwise. Or you might be an employee who thinks, well, this isn't bad, but maybe it's a lot better somewhere else. So how do you know?
Let's say a couple of ways. The most direct to most people is looking at their rates of turnover. Are people walking out the door? And if they are, trying to get a sense of why they're leaving, doing exit interviews. But that is a real indicator that something is not going right. And the data shows, and one of the most famous studies is the Gallup study that says that when you have a best friend, when you have relationships and connections at work, your engagement goes up and your turnover goes down. So I would say looking at those turnover numbers and also looking at many companies, again, big and small, are doing more and more engagement surveys or pulse surveys. Pulse surveys are now ones that are done instead of waiting until the end of the year, which might be too late because some of your best people might be gone, trying to take the pulse on the organization on a much more regular basis and really asking questions about that. And one example that jumps out, and which is in the book, comes from EY, that they asked this one question across all of the people in their organization, and this happens to be a very large company, but the question is, do you feel that you can be your true self, your full self at work? Which is a way of getting at, are your managers and is it a culture where people honor relationships?
We're speaking with Erica Keswin. The book is Take Your Human to Work. She's also the founder of the Spaghetti Project, which we've already talked about. So, Erica, you might have some folks listening to this and thinking, yeah, it's really important to value your employees, make sure they know they're valued, know that they can feel real. I don't want a lot of turnover. That would be bad for the stability of my business. But in the end, I'm not running a social club. I'm here to make money. So what do you say? How does honoring relationships impact the bottom line?
I would say turnover is the number one. It can cost up to 200 to 300% of an employee's salary just to replace that person. I would say, is one quick example. I would also say that the world of work is changing in that millennials, Gen Z, they want to work for companies that honor relationships, that have a greater purpose in their companies. And so it's an issue for many startups. If you want to have a company that is sustainable, you need good people. And for employees coming into companies today, this is important. For many of them, it's even more a bigger driver than how much they get paid. So I will say getting the right people in the door is a huge, huge piece of this as well. And the third, I would say it's your clients, that people are buying products based on companies that care about bigger issues, not only their employees, but broader societal issues. So it does impact who buys your products, who will come work with your company, and how long people will stay. So to me, there is a very clear correlation with how you honor relationships, what kind of culture you create, and the bottom line.
Let me flip it the other way now. In general, how well are businesses doing in adjusting to that new expectation from the rising generations? And for those who haven't changed yet but would like to, what's the best way to get started?
Well, the best way to get started is to buy the book, Bring Your Human to Work. And, my goal in writing this book is that it's not rocket science, but it does take intention. And my hope is that this is a roadmap that really lays out how to do this. So if I were to tell companies that want to start this process where to start, I would say, and the book focuses on this, a menu of options. So there's no order. You can pick and choose in terms of which chapters can, really connect with you the most, whether it's about focusing on learning and development or giving back or focusing on wellness as a way to bring people together. But the one chapter that is really important for companies to think about, especially small businesses and small businesses and companies that are just getting started, have a huge opportunity to do some of these things right from day one. Is the chapter of the book is called Be Real, Speak in an Authentic Voice. You need to know who you are and what you value, because everything else that you're going to do should be aligned to those values. And the tip I would give people listening and to companies is sometimes companies run into the trap of just making a laundry list of all the different things that they stand for, 10, 14 things, way too many. You really need to narrow it down. If you can pick the 3 to 5 things that you stand for as a business, and then use that type of culture and those values to align to the kinds of people you want to bring in, how you promote people, how you recognize people. The last chapter in the book is called Say Thank You. How do you recognize people? And so I guess that those would be my 2 things. One is you've got to think about who you are and what you stand for. Easier said than done when you're a small company or just getting started. And if you're already a big company and having these issues, I would urge you to take a look at what you have and potentially hone it down and try to make it very clear.
Erica, excellent advice. You give us both the 35,000-foot view in terms of the larger concepts, but also a lot of real practical, specific ideas in your comments and in the book as well. So thank you very much for your time today. We greatly appreciate your insights.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Erica Keswin is the author of Take Your Human to Work. She is also the founder of the Spaghetti Project. I'm Greg Corombos. For more information on this topic, please call Biz Filings at 844-202-0707.
Biz Filings, a Wolters Kluwer company, has been incorporating businesses since 1996.